Hi everyone, welcome to the Redesigning School Counseling webinar for first year RSC schools. The focus of this webinar is in helping you to establish your school counseling program goals. So we'll talk about goals and how to engage your advisory council into that discussion. My name is Sue Reynolds and I am president of the American Student Achievement Institute. Also with us on the call is Debbie, on the webinar is Debbie Howell. Debbie is our RSC Strategic Planning Specialist, and just as a reminder, she is there for you. It is her sole job to serve you, and that's her phone number on the screen and her email address. So as we go through this, if you have questions tomorrow or the next day, or whenever, maybe weeks from now when you're just about to do this discussion with your council, please feel free to call Debbie. That's what she's there for. Okay, before we get started, I do want to talk about the Lilly Endowment Counseling Initiative. This is a wonderful opportunity that Lilly has made available to Indiana schools. We are absolutely thrilled that Lilly sees and understands the importance of school counseling. And then also that the initiative is really integrating very well with RSC. And I think you're going to be just thrilled that you're going to be able to use the RSC process to create your implementation grant for Lilly. So I want to go into that in a little bit more depth, and then in the next few days, I'm attending a meeting tomorrow at Lilly, and in the next few days after that, then we'll be putting out an email to you explaining how we might further help as you develop your proposals to Lilly for funding. So, okay. So the Lilly Counseling Initiative is coming in two parts, which I think is wonderful. There is a planning grant that is coming to schools first, and that is going to all schools. It's not competitive. So every school in Indiana, public school, qualifies for a planning grant. Then at the end of the planning phase, schools will submit another grant application for the implementation grant. And that will be for funding to implement the activities that you planned during the planning process. So I think maybe for some of you, the light bulb's going off and you're thinking, oh, so RSC could be the process that we use during the planning period. And then at the end of this, then whatever activities that have come out of RSC, we can then put those activities into our implementation grant application to Lilly. And bingo, that's it. It's just going to fit together really well. So I want to talk about the planning grant in a little bit of depth, and then we'll look at the implementation grant a little bit. So the planning grant, I'm going to start down here at the bottom. The planning grant, and this is no small chunk of change. The planning grant is $30,000 to $50,000 per district, depending on the size of your district. The planning grant period is second semester this year, so January 30th or whenever Lilly has notified you that you have been approved for your planning grant. January 30th to the day that the implementation grant is due, which is May 19th, 2017. So basically second semester. And then the deadline, oops, that's a wrong deadline. December 14th or 15th is the deadline for the planning grant. Okay, so let's talk about that planning grant. It's not competitive, so you all are eligible for it and can receive it. The purpose of the funding in that grant, and so this is money that you would spend in the second semester of this year. The purpose of that funding is to research model school counseling programs, to assess your own strengths and weaknesses as a school counseling program, to identify activities that you'd like to implement with the funding that Lilly can provide, and then to prepare the grant proposal, the implementation grant proposal. So basically, this funding can be used to support all of the activities you're doing with RSC. And as I went through those, I bet too that the light bulb was going off thinking, oh, assess our strengths and weaknesses. Isn't that what we just did when we surveyed our students last spring in our counselor survey? Weren't we looking at what our program's strengths and weaknesses were? Isn't that what RSC is all about? Yes, absolutely. So this is really going to integrate well. So as you go through the planning process with us the second semester, you can use these planning funds from Lilly to research model programs, to assess your current program strengths and weaknesses, to engage stakeholders in the redesign process, for planning time outside of contract hours. So if you're working on RSC and one of your counselors to provide that person with a stipend for doing work outside of the contract hours, it would be an expense that you might have. And also technical assistance. If you're bringing in an organization like ours to do some work for you as you plan, you can pay for that. So the planning grant is really to support all the work that you're doing this year around RSC. So it doesn't have to be with RSC, but since you're already engaged in RSC, it would just make sense that you would use RSC. Okay. On the right-hand side is the implementation grant. So let's start down here at the bottom. The implementation grant is up to $100,000 depending on the size of your district. The grant period is, and I think this is really nice, it's October 17th, I'm sorry, October 2017, oh my goodness, let me change that really fast, 2017, and then this is December 2016. Okay, so the grant period is a year from now, October 2017, and then all the way up until June 2021. So so you've really got a several years here to implement the programs that you'll plan and fund through this grant. The deadline's May 17th, so we'll be working up until deadline to help you prepare that implementation grant. And then this grant is competitive, so not all of the planning, not all of the implementation grants that get submitted at the end of the planning period will be funded. So this is a competitive grant. Its purpose is to fund the activities that are in your approved planning grant. So when you have that grant written and there's activities in it, the funding will fund those activities. So the expenses that you may have to fund the activities that you come up with through the RSC process are materials and supplies, travel, personnel, technical assistance. So those are the two grants. The thing we want to talk about this year is the planning grant. So so I'll pause here for a minute. I see another little typo. Let's fix real quickly. This should be the implementation grant. Oops, there we go. Any questions? Okay, let's go on. Okay, so let's go back now and look more in depth at this planning grant. So in the planning grant that we just talked about, this would be if you chose to use RSC to help you plan during this period. In the planning grant, it talks about how during this period of time you would develop you would research model counseling programs, engage stakeholders, assess strengths and weaknesses, identify activities, and then write your grant proposal. So let's talk about how all those just fit into RSC. On researching model counseling programs, so first of all, RSC is a model school counseling program. I know in Indiana, this RSC has come to you at no cost, so it may be hard to understand that this is really a national model, and it's something that a lot of schools have done. Remember that in Indiana there's been 120 plus ramp schools. In other parts of the country there are maybe 2 ramp schools per state or 7 per state. So RSC really is a model program. When we do contracts with districts and state departments outside of Indiana, there is a hefty charge for the services that we're providing. Because of the philosophy of our board, we provide this we partially fund this ourselves in Indiana, and then the Indiana Department of Education also partially funds RSC. So it's free to you, but it's not free. Our board is covering it, and Indiana DOE is covering it. It's also, as a model program, there's been independent research that has been done by a couple of different universities on our process, and there's been published research that shows that RSC has a significant, statistically significant impact on student achievement. So it's not only model, it's proven. And just, I don't know if you realize this, but there are schools in 41 states who use RSC. It's not just an Indiana thing. And 17 universities have incorporated it into their counselor education program. So really RSC is a model program. We're going to also help you explore model delivery systems this year, and so there'll be other models that you look at to incorporate within RSC, but we just wanted to help you understand that RSC is a model. So when Lilly talks about models, this is a model. Okay, the planning activities that Lilly talks about, one of them is engaging stakeholders. Oh my goodness, you've already, that's what you've been doing over the past couple of months. You put together an advisory council that's very broadly based. You involved your community organizations, economic development, your mayor's office, local businesses, chamber of commerce, business and industry. I mean, you've really made your advisory council a broadly based group. Now, if you feel that you could go more broadly based, I would suggest you add additional people to your advisory council. I think that would strengthen your grant application down the road. So I think that the more broad base you can get, the better. In the Lilly grant application, it talks about both counseling and guidance. So you want to make sure that you have counseling stakeholders in your advisory council as well as guidance stakeholders. So maybe your community mental health association, the folks in your community that are interested in social personal development. So, okay, so you're engaging your stakeholders. You've got that checked off. On assessing your strengths and weaknesses, in a few more months we're going to do a step called the root cause analysis, and that's what that is. We're using data to assess your school's strengths and weaknesses. So the student survey that you already did, that data you have already, the counselor survey, and you're still working on your counselor time use study. So all of that data is going to drop into your plan, your funding plan for the implementation of your activities very, very well. So I think that's one of our strengths, is our use of data for decision-making purposes, and being able to put that in your application, and then also being able to put in baseline data and explain how during the implementation phase you'll be using, you'll be able to get follow-up data. I think will make your application really strong. So yeah, so we've got that covered. Identify activities, that will come closer to May, and we have a searchable activity database, and then we also have a list of recommended activities for each grade level. So I think we'll definitely be able to help you do that. And that may be a place where you use your funding also. For example, maybe you find an activity that a school across the state did, and you want to go see that in action. So then you could use the funding for travel to go visit that program. Or maybe bring somebody from that school to your school to talk about it. Or if you read about an initiative online, you could use travel for that specific program to come in and talk to you about that program. And all of that, of course, would fit underneath the RSC umbrella and would be focused on the RSC goals. So at the end of the year, and we'll be kind of tweaking our system a little bit to make sure that we're aligned with the terminology that Lily's using, and some other things. But you'll have a grant, you'll be able to use our products to fit into a grant outline. So when normally when you're writing a grant, you do an introduction about your school. Well, you've already got a report that has all your school demographics in it, so you can just pop that out and write around that. Normally you'd write a rationale. Why do we need this funding? Well, you've already got your student plan data and your student choices data. So you can say, here are issues. Only, 2% of our students are planning to continue their education after high school. Only 1% of our students knows what merit-based financial aid is. 0% of our students talk to their parents about school, or whatever this data is pointing to you as being the rationale for why you want to change your program. Then normally in a grant you put in goals. Well, we'll suggest to you that you drop in your RSC priority goals, your strengths and weaknesses. You're going to have all kinds of data there to help you with that, your student needs data, your program opportunities data, your counselor time use data. You'll really be able to say, here are strengths in our program, but here are weaknesses that we need to address in order to be able to reach our goals. And then activities. You'll be able to drop in a list of activities that you put into our system, but you'll also be able to put in some reports that we provide that are crosswalks. So you'll be able to say, here's our goals and here's the activities that fall under them. Here's our, there's just several different crosswalks that you'll be able to do. And then our very last step is budgeting, to say if you're doing these activities, how much is that going to cost and where's the money going to come from? And you actually will use a kind of a budget wizard that we provide to create and print out a budget. So that budget can become then the budget in your grant application. So so I think this is all going to just fit together really well, and we look forward to helping you develop this as we go. So I'm just really, really pleased that that everything just fit together so well so that you can use RSC to apply for this funding. And one other thing, that funding, the implementation funding, it is a competitive grant. Let's just pretend that you didn't get the grant for some reason. Then there'd be no reason why you couldn't just take that same proposal, go to some large industry in your community or to the community foundation, or to ask somebody else to give you the funding. So so once you know what you need funding for, and you've done all the work that to kind of cost it out, and we'll help you do that. At that point, if the first funder doesn't fund you, you just go find another funder. So yeah, so we're really, really excited about this. And I'm going to pause here and just see real quickly if anybody has any questions. So if you do, please just kind of unmute yourself and jump in here and ask. Or Debbie, let me know if anybody has typed in any questions, that there's that possibility as well.
Yeah, Sue, I have one question and one comment.
Okay.
The question is the Lilly grant one per school or one per corporation? And the comment is the implementation grant is up to $100 a student.
Yeah, okay, so to answer the first question, the funding in all of the descriptions that Lilly has published is that the funding will go to the district. So, and then the district will, I'm assuming they'll either create a district-wide initiative, or they will, or they'll just divvy out the funding per school. So the application will be coming in from the district. So that's something else to think about. That may be also when you think about your advisory council, maybe putting some district folks on your advisory council so that they are very familiar with your work. That would be good. So it may be that the district is going to say, okay, let's have all the schools in our district do RSC. And I'm going to show you in a minute, we're going to do a new cohort. So that's going to be possible if you would like the other schools in your district to come into RSC. You might want to advocate for that if you like the system and you think it would be good for your whole district. So, that could be one thing, is that your district turns in an app to fund the RSC in all schools, or it may be that your district is going to turn in an application and say, okay, this school is going to do this process, another school is doing that process, then they all kind of mesh together. So I do think it would be good for you to make sure that your superintendent knows that you're doing RSC, and if you like our tools and our support and see how this all meshes together, this might be a good time for you to say to him, guess what, we have this process already, this is going to be great. So, but I would make sure that it's on his radar that you've already started this work, if it's not already, or her radar. So, so that was the first question. Oh, the $100 per student. The $100 per student depends on the size of the district. And again, when we send you the email with all the details, we'll send you links to everything, and that will be in the next few days, probably early next week, because we want to hit this meeting tomorrow at Lilly first. But when we send that to you, we'll give you links, and if I'm remembering accurately, for the larger districts, it's $100 per student, and for the smaller districts, there's a set cap, even if that means that you go over $100 per student. So, so yeah. Okay, other questions? Those are really good questions and thoughtful questions. And even if you don't have a good question, we'll take it. Okay, shall I go on then? Okay, can you go on? Okay, so here are the services that we're going to be providing tentatively. And again, when you get the email from us in a few days, this will all be concrete by then. But this is 99% baked, but we're just still thinking a little bit. So first of all, during the planning phase, which is your first grant application from your district, we'll do an intro webinar that will probably happen in mid-November, and where we'll show people how you can use RSC to develop your planning in your planning period as you're working on your planning grant. So we'll have a webinar around that. And then we also have redesigning school counseling, which is provided at no cost, compliments of our organization and DOE in Indiana. And so we have the 2016 cohort, that's you guys. We have a renewal cohort, and then we're going to put together a new cohort that will start in January and finish in May. It's going to be a little bit condensed. It's going to be quick because, for you guys, you've spent, a year collecting data, and then we put the summer in the whole thing. So they're going to, this new cohort's going to have to work pretty quickly, but so is everybody that wants to do a sound program. If they decide to use RSC or not, they've got one semester to figure out what they want to do. So, so we have this cohort. The good thing about RSC is that all the tools are there and the process is there. So I think this could really help schools that haven't started with RSC yet. And then we'll do a renewal cohort, and they'll be on a quick time frame as well, so that they can finish up before the implementation grants are due. Okay, then we will provide for you, and this would be something that you would put in your planning grant application. We would like to customize our online system so that it completely aligns with Lilly terminology, and the online system is, all set so that it supports in a more direct way the writing of your implementation grant. What I'm kind of picturing right now, and we're still working on this, but what I'm kind of picturing right now is that at the end of this process, you would just push a button and an implementation grant would just pop out. So we'd put some narrative in, and then it would paste in your goals, it would paste in your root causes, it would say, who's involved on your advisory council in developing the grant application, the program, that. So, and then you would get that and then edit it any way you wanted to, but we would give you a starting point on that. So that's one possibility we're looking into, and then another possibility is to just give you a side-by-side so that we'll say when the grant application asks for this, and then we'll give you a link. We'll say, okay, go here, copy and paste in. So that somehow will be fine-tuning the online system so that it makes it a little bit easier for you to go from the online system to the actual grant application. So look for information about that. And then the other thing is we'll provide sometimes second semester an introduction to several different initiatives that can fall underneath the RSC umbrella that are delivery models. So, it might be that we know counselors are going into the classroom and doing classroom guidance, but how can we set up an advisor-advisee program to supplement that or to build upon that? How can we establish a community-based guidance initiative so that, for example, I keep giving high school examples today, but let's say well, let's do an elementary example. Let's say in an elementary school, one of your um, choices that you want kids to make is you want them to talk to their parents every day about school. So maybe you're talking about that at school, and then you've coordinated with the electric company in your town. So at the same time, on the bills from the electric company, there's just going to be a statement at the top of the bill that says, "Have you talked to your child today about school?" So so we'll coordinate guidance activities coming from the community with guidance activities that are happening in the school. We have a lot of years and years of experience with both of these. We've done national workshops on advisor-advisees several times for different organizations, and we just finished up an initiative with community-based guidance where we coordinated over 2,000 different community organizations, and they implemented over 3,000 community-based guidance activities that integrated with the school. So yeah, and then classroom-based guidance where we give guidance applications to academic content, math and English, and then parent-based guidance where we help parents understand what they can do to help students master the counseling the counseling indicators and standards. So yeah, so this would be just an introduction to help you decide if these are things that you would like to implement during the implementation phase. And then in the implementation phase, we'd go heavy duty into training for these. So we do webinar series to help you set up and deliver an advisor-advisee program or a community-based guidance or classroom-based or parent-based. So again, these are like, I always think of this as adding arms onto the school counselor. There's one of us, there's a million kids. If we get others to help us deliver the guidance curriculum, and then get to know kids and make referrals to us for personal social reasons, this is just like adding arms on. So we're creating worker bees to help you deliver your program. So, and the webinar series would kind of include these things, creating buy-in, training whoever's going to be delivering, the teacher advisors or the community-based advisors or whatever. We teach you how to train them and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how we thought we might help with the implementation phase, is to help you think about not only it being school counselors that are delivering your program, but everybody. So and again, the idea is that no matter where kids turn, be it at church or at their scout troop meeting or in the grocery store or at school, that they're getting similar messages and coordinated messages to help them make better decisions at that impact achievement. So okay, that's it. So I'm going to just fly into, I know that we spent a lot of time on that, so I'm going to really rush through program goals. This is not that hard, so I think we'll be able to get it through it pretty quickly. I'm going to go through very quickly a review, then we'll jump into goals. And the one thing I want to point out is that there is a pre-meeting mailing this time, so I want to make sure that that's on your radar and that gets out a couple of weeks before, or at least a week before your meeting. Okay, so review, I'm just going to fly through the beliefs. We've already talked about this. The one thing that's unique about RSC is that we believe that sound guidance and counseling programs help students make better choices. And these become the goals of your program. So your goals are to help, is to have a higher percentage of students who choose to take an AP class, or who choose to talk to their parents about school, or who choose not to fight when they're upset. Um, so we're helping kids make better choices, and then as a result of those choices, achievement goes up. That's very unique to RSC. Okay, and then just a reminder that today we're going to start working on goals, and the first goals we're going to start out with our achievement goals. But we don't have to create achievement goals because they're already in your school improvement plan. So we're just going to lift the achievement goals out of your school improvement plan, and then we're going to say what choices do kids need to make in order to reach our achievement goals. That's going to become our school counseling goals, are those student choice goals. And then we'll design the program to help kids make those choices. Okay, the process, again, I'm just going to flip through here pretty quickly. You've done visioning. Today we're going to work on program goals. And then next month, let me back up. On program goals, there's going to be a lot of them, maybe 70 or 80 different goals that you have, because kids need to make 70 or 80 choices in order to be successful at school. There's a lot of choices that kids have to make right in order to be successful at learning. So after we have this big long list today, the next month we're going to narrow down the list to maybe just even one of all those goals that you're really, really, really going to hit hard next school year. But before we do that, we're going to expand our resources. One of the resources that you now have is that Lilly funding. So and the tech support and materials that it will buy and all of that. So this year, for the first time ever, when we talk about expanding resources, there's going to be the potential for really expanding those resources. Okay, so then we'll have priority goals, then we'll figure out what's getting in the way of the priority goals. That's where all that survey data comes in. Then we'll plan the activities to address the root causes, and then we'll prepare. So, okay, so let's talk about program goals. Okay, this is what we're doing this month. Okay, there is a pre-meeting mailing. You'll send people two things. One is a cover memo that we'll provide for you, and then the other is the student achievement goals from your school improvement plan. We have a template that you can use or to type those into, or you can just take that goals page out of your plan and send it right to your council. Okay, then there is a pre-meeting task. So your council is going to have homework before they get to your meeting. As an alternative, you could have a second meeting before the regular scheduled meeting where you would do this as a group. But I think 100% of our schools make this homework because it's just easier for people to do these things at home. Okay, so what we want your council to do is to analyze the data, some of the data that you collected from the student surveys. So they're going to do a student data analysis before they come to your meeting. You're going to give them a link to a data report. They'll download that report, and then they're going to check any choices that they think that all students should make at some point while they're in your building before they leave you. And then they're going to star choices that concern them, because right now there's very few students making those choices. Okay, that's the main task. And then we're going to say, let's look at some of the drill down report and see, is it all students that aren't making this choice, or is it one group of students, like maybe just the boys aren't making this choice, or just the Hispanic students, or just the free and reduced lunch kids. If we can further drill down the student group, that's going to help you really target your activities later. And again, in a grant application, to be able to drill down and focus the funding specifically on where it's needed, and to do that with data behind those decisions, I think is really going to be powerful for you. So, okay. So When your council gets the memo that you send them, it'll have a link to your student choice data. And it will have instructions for how to do this. They're going to put in 2016, they'll put in Indiana, all the schools in the state will pop up, they'll find your school, click on it, and then the report that they want is the summary report for plans and choices. Okay, so they'll click on this, and that's all in the memo. Then the report will look like this, and actually this is a real school's data. Did you meet with the college rep at your high school this year? And that's something that the person filling out this sheet thought that, yeah, every student should meet with the college rep while they're in high school. So they checked that off as being something they wanted all kids in the school to do. And then they put a star next to it because when they looked at this data, they thought, oh gosh, less than a third of our, in this case, 11th and 12th graders, less than a third are talking with a college rep. And that's something that we think all kids should do so that all kids understand that that's a viable option. So, so they put a star on that. Did you attend a college fair? Again, grades 11 and 12. This person thought that all kids should attend a college fair to broaden their horizons, to get information, ask questions. But only 12% of the students, or looking at that the other way, 88% of the kids did not attend a college fair. So they said, yes, it's important for all kids to do, and we're upset about the data. That's an area that we're not happy with. Did you visit a college campus this year? 40% did. The person filling this out said that everybody in the 11th and 12th grade should be visiting a college campus. And remember, college for us means 4-year, 2-year apprenticeship program, military. I mean, it's all of the educational opportunities after high school. But the person was happy with 40%, and so they did not start. So that's what they're doing as they read the plans and choices report. Then the instructions will tell them how to access the drill down reports. And let's say that in my community, I've always been a real advocate for the low-income families. So I may want to open up the report that shows the data that's disaggregated between free and reduced and paid lunch students. Did you visit a college campus this year? Paid lunch students, 51% of the 11th and 12th graders did, but in free and reduced, only 26% did. And this, again, is a real school's data. So, so that may further help you think about why aren't kids visiting a college campus? And when you know that it's the free and reduced lunch kids, that helps give you some clues. Well, maybe all their parents are working and so they can't take them. And then down the road, activity, maybe we need to just put kids on a bus and take them because we know that the low-income kids, free and reduced lunch kids, are not able to do that with their parents. So yeah, so this is how kind of we're using the data, and they put a star on this one because they noticed that there was a discrepancy there that bothered them. So, okay, so let's walk through the meeting. First I'm going to go to the online system, and let's look at that real quickly. Okay, I'm logged in as Demo School. I'm going to go to the process page. I'm going to scroll down to November. So the steps are participate in the webinar, which you're doing, good. Watch the webcast. The webcast that we're recording right now will be here. Send the pre-meeting memo and the achievement goals. So I've already opened those up. Here's the template for the achievement goals. And again, you don't have to use this, but if it will help get the point across, we like to do achievement goals as what students do you have this goal for, what's the benchmark that you want them to reach, what's the baseline data, the date, and the percentage that reach the benchmark, and then the target data, what date is the follow-up data going to be collected on, and what's your target, what do you hope it will be. So you can lift that out of your school improvement plan, just put it in this format if you like it, or just send them a copy of the school improvement plan with that part designated. Okay, so that's that. And then the other thing that's in these tools is the pre-meeting memo. So I'm going to open that. And again, you are welcome to edit this, change it. So this is telling folks, we're sending you the academic goals, and now we're going to work on the program goals, and it gives them instructions about what to check and what to star. And then if they click on this link, or they copy and paste this link into their browser, it'll open up the pages that we looked at on the PowerPoint. So, and then just gives them instructions for how to go about that. So, and then the parts that are in red are parts that you would need to fill out so that they call you if they want help and information about your next meeting. So, okay, so that's the pre-meeting memo. And again, I would get that memo out. I wouldn't send it out a lot of time, like weeks in advance, because then people forget about it. Maybe, 10 days to 14 days if you've got that much time, at least a week ahead, so people know that they've got, a little bit of work to do before they get to your meeting. So, okay, then we're going to upload the achievement goals, and you just upload either that template that we provided filled out, or just upload a part of your school improvement plan that talks about your school's achievement goals. Conduct the meeting, enter your program goals. I'll show you that. It's pretty nifty. So I'm going to go to enter. So now, this is nifty, but it's also pretty important. So, okay, so the first thing we give you on this page is just another little set of instructions. You're going to conduct the advisory council meeting, get their input, then you're going to add suggested program goals. This is a list of goals that we suggest to you based on the Indiana requirements or standards. And then we're going to add in program goals that you create if there's any additional that you want to put in. And then you can review it and then edit program goals if you need, and then enter your minutes. So, okay. So then as you put those goals in, they will appear down here. So the first time you go into this, there will be nothing down here. And then as you add in goals, they will appear. So the first goal that's listed here for this demo school is to discuss future plans with their parents. It's a goal that they had for all grades, all student groups, and it was not a suggested goal. It's one I created myself, or the school created themselves, and so I can edit it. You can edit anything except for the suggested goals. I'll talk about that in a sec, and I can delete it. And then I also wanted to point out, look at this goal, have 10 or more absences in a semester. When this school looked at the drill down data, they discovered that there was a big gap in that data between the boys and the girls, the guys and the gals. And so they decided to have this goal just be for the males, and so that they could target the activities towards the males to fix this. Okay. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk about why you can't edit the suggested goals in 1 second. Okay, I'm going to go back up to the top. So add a suggested program goal. I'm going to click enter. And here are a bunch of goals that we would like you to consider as goals for your school counseling program. We did this for a couple reasons. One is that as we looked at schools' programs, we saw these goals over and over and over and over again. We also researched literature, and we found that model school counseling programs tended to help students do these things. And then the two other reasons we did it to give you suggested goals is, one, to save you some time because you didn't have to start from scratch writing the goals. It's just a checklist. And two, this is important, every single one of these suggested goals for your program has a survey question that aligns with it. So we have baseline data for your school on every single one of these suggested goals. This is aligned with the survey. So right now, if you decided plan to go to college, you want to be with your goals, we can tell you, or you can go into the system and get data that will tell you what percentage of students plan to go to college at each grade level, free or reduced lunch versus paid lunch, boys versus girls, students whose parents had gone to college versus students whose parents have not gone to college, and there's all this data around each of these. So, so what you would do is just you would read through the list, and you would just add the ones that you want to add. You're seeing a warning here, and this is telling you that this suggested goal has already been added for the group males, and so I've got a goal just for the boys already that I've entered in. But I may decide, yeah, I have one for boys, but this is also important for everybody. So I want it to be all grades in all groups. And then, or I can say, I want this goal specifically to be just for the 11th graders because that's where I'm seeing there's a lack in this choice, or whatever. So if you want to pinpoint the goal, you can pinpoint it by grade level. So you can, maybe it's not important to you that kids plan to go to college until 12th grade. Then just say you're going to select grades and pick 12th grade. And then maybe it's only important to you that females plan to go to college, and you want that to be your goal. So you would put that in. So at any rate, and those are kind of some silly examples, but I think you hopefully get the picture. You'll see that there's a lot of these, and like just as like, these are all choices, 90 of them that are listed here in grades 7 through 12, that, with choices that kids need to make in order to be successful at school. So, okay, so one other thing. There is an option up here that says select all. If you click that, it selects everything. So you can click that if you want to and then edit it. But one of the things we do want to make sure that you understand as an Indiana school is that to earn the Gold Star Award, you have to have all of these goals. So for Gold Star, you have to have a program that's helping students make every single one of these choices. So these can be your goals. You may end up having 90 if you're a 7 through 12 building. But remember, next month we're going to narrow it down to priority goals, which are a subset of these, maybe 2 or 3 things. So, okay. This is just saying to everybody that it's the goal of our school that kids make these choices. Then, going back up to the top here, let me go back. If you have a goal that's not on this list, and every year, I think schools will have 1 or 2 things that aren't there that are important to them, then we would add program goals that you create, and you just click there, and the prompt is that you want to increase the to impact the percentage of students who, and then you would write in the student choice who choose to whatever. Then is it for all students at grade level and student group, and then click the Save button, and that will add it. Now, the reason that we allow you to edit these questions that you create is that there's no student data, no survey data associated with the questions that you create. I'm sorry, with the goals that you create. We don't allow you to edit the suggested goals because these goals have data with them, and we're afraid that if you edit the statement, you'll change the meaning of it enough, or you have the perception of perhaps changing the meaning of that statement enough that the data would no longer apply. So let's say that you don't like, let's say that you want to edit, discuss their future plans with their school counselor. You don't like that. You want this to say their school guidance counselor. What you would need to do is delete this and then create a new one that says discuss their future plans with their school's guidance counselor. You wouldn't have any data associated with it. But if you really object to language, that would be the way to do it. Just get rid of the one that's here and create one that's similar, or that you would like to have. Okay, I think that's it on entering the goals. And I know I'm a little bit over. I apologize. We added in that grant information that's going to make us just a few minutes long, but I am wrapping up. Let's go to the meeting and let's do a quick walkthrough of that. Okay, here we go. So we're welcoming people to your meeting. So now we're at the Advisory Council meeting where we're going to talk about the goals. We're talking about what the agenda is, which is to create desired student choices, and then to look at the guidance gaps that you have. So these are your program goals. Okay, then we're reviewing the process. I'll fly through this. And that process, okay. Remember, we think it's important to help people understand that there's products coming as a result of their discussions. So, you know, you can say, thanks so much for last month. We created the vision statement. Here it is. So that just kind of shows them that there's some action to this, that it's not just they come talk and nothing happens. So today we're going to talk about program goals, and when you come back next month, you know, we'll be able to give you another document of our program goals. Okay, so today, here's what we're talking about. You're telling your council we're going to talk about our school's achievement goals. What are our school's achievement goals? That's the question. That's going to come out of your school improvement plan. And then we're going to ask talk about what are our school counseling program goals? What choices should all students make ideally in order for our school to reach these academic goals? Okay, so we're talking with folks about how we're going to express data in RSC. So it's always going to be a student group, a benchmark, baseline data, and target data. And the time period is always, in RSC work, is always going to be within 1 year. So here's some examples. We want to increase the percentage of all students who report bullying when observed. Right now, 65% of the students say they're doing that. We'd like to increase that to 85% within the next year. The second goal, increase the percentage of all students who take a career interest inventory. Right now we're at 32%. We'd like to increase that to 100% by the end of next school year. Okay, so you kind of see how it works. We made one example be a subgroup, student group. So this fourth one is just all 8th graders. We want them to create a high school course plan. Right now, none of them are. We want to make that happen for all kids. So that's going to go from 0 to 100%. Okay, so then we're going into, let's look at our school's achievement goals. So all this is heading us towards the achievement goals. So you can either pass out a copy of the achievement goals or write them into this template and show them this is where our school wants to be academically by the target date. Okay, in our counseling goals, remember that they are going to support these academic goals that we just talked about. So these student choices that we want kids to make, those are our program goals. And then later we'll design activities that will help kids make those choices. So our key question is, what choices should all students make, because those choices will enable students to reach our academic goals, succeed at the next educational level, and ultimately succeed in post-secondary ed and succeed in a global economy. And by the way, this right here, that aligns perfectly with the purpose of the Lilly grant. Okay, so we want to look at possible goals and just tease out all possible goals to begin with. And as a pre-meeting activity, you reviewed the student choice reports and you brought them with you, and we'd like you to notice the choices that you've checked. And then also look at any additional goals. What additional student choices are not on that list that maybe we should be considering as a goal for our program? So the way we're going to come to consensus with this, and again you're talking to your council, is we're going to use an Instagraph. It's a really easy way to come to consensus quickly. So what we'd like you to do on this Instagraph is to place a sticky dot next to the goals that you do not feel are important for students to make in our school. So here are all of the suggested goals, and there are different versions of this. We're looking at the high school one. There's a middle school version and an elementary version, and we're just asking folks to come up, and if there's any of these that they don't want kids to do, they would put dots next to them. So first person comes up, or X's. First person comes up and plan to attend post-secondary education as a full-time student. That's not something they think that kids, a choice that kids should be making in your building. So they put a sticky dot on that one. And then the next person after that, the next person comes up, and everybody always puts their dot or their X to the right of the one in front of it. So you can see what we're doing here is we're building a bar graph. And this makes consensus go really quickly, because now, we can just say, gosh, 5 of you, this got the most votes of something we don't think is important for our school. Should we just leave this one out? And everybody will either say yes, or people will say, we're fine with it, but we don't like the word full-time, and so then edit it. And then the ones that nobody said should be left out, they would just end up being in there. So, and then also on this, at the very bottom, there's spaces where if there's any extra, before you do the sticky dots, if there's any additional goals that people want to add onto the list before you go through this process, you would add that onto the bottom of the list. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing with a different, let me back up. So there's only one of these posters. You've blown this up in the poster size, and it's up on the wall, and people are coming up with their dots or their marker to make X's. Okay. So now we're going to say to folks, did you notice any guidance gaps? Are there groups of students that tend, for whatever reason, to not make choices at the rate of their peers? So we're just brainstorming, what did you find? And, usually people will come up with, the free and reduced lunch kids weren't making choices, or kids whose parents have never been to college did not make, choices that we think they should make. So, and then also we're asking them, what data led you to think that? And they'll have their sheets with them, so they'll be able to say, oh my gosh, only 28% of the Hispanic students are planning to go to post-secondary when, 98% of the white kids are. So, okay, so then we have another Instagraph. This time we're asking people to indicate the groups of students that they think are not making a sound choices. So, and again, the sticky dots would go on just like before. Okay, and that's it. From that, then you're going to be able to look at this Instagraph and the next Instagraph, and then come up with your list of program goals. And again, it's going to be a big list in a middle school where there's a ton of choices that 8th graders have to make. There could be as many as 90. So yeah, there's a lot of choices that are important. And again, looking at the Lilly funding, without that support, when we narrow this down to priority goals, it can just be 1 or 2 things that you're going to work on. But with that Lilly funding, if you are to engage a teacher advisor program or community-based guidance and really coordinate that, you could hit a lot of these things. So that's really exciting. Okay, and then we're just telling our council, looking ahead, after today, we'll create program goals and bring them back to you at the next meeting. Then after that, we're going to come up with priority goals after expanding our resources, and that may be where you want to talk about the Lilly funding and how that you're going to be able to expand your resources this year. And then at meeting 4, you're talking about how you'll look at what's getting in the way of students making those choices that you want them to make and the priority goals. And then at meeting 5, you're going to be exploring activities. And you could say, and one of the things we want to do when we get to this point is to do some site visits, or to bring people in to talk with us, or to attend some of the events that ASA is going to put on about delivery models involving multiple people. Yeah, so okay, and then that's it. And that finishes that up. I do want to go back to one last thing. The rubric items for program goals, I'll just fly through this and then we'll finish. Program goals. Achievement goals have been updated. Program goals are present. They reflect desired student outcomes. At least one program goal targets a specific student group. That's part of the ASCA ramp requirements and the Gold Star requirements, is that schools need to be working on closing guidance gaps. So at least one of your goals has to have a student group that is not all students. And then Indiana only, all of the suggested program goals have to be included. I always get the question that if they all have to be included, why are we going through this activity? We think it's really important that you not do Gold Star just to get the Gold Star. And if it's not a good fit for your school, we think it's probably not a good idea to do Gold Star. So in this step, as you're looking through all of these possible student choices, if your counselor comes up with a lot of them that they just don't think students in your building need to be doing, then right then and there you may be thinking Gold Star is not a good fit for us. So this is a place for you to really think about, do we as a community really believe that kids should be making all these choices? I think you'll say yes. And if so, then go forward with Gold Star. But if not, then we think you should think about, is that important? It doesn't mean you have to stop the process, because you could go on, still earn the RAMP award, because RAMP does not require you to implement all of those choices. Just Indiana does that. So you can go on with the process and have fewer than all those choices. But really, when you look at those choices, I don't think there are any that you're going to want to leave out. The students that succeed at school make all of those choices. So, okay, that's it. Let's come back to questions. Debbie, anything that got typed in? And again, I apologize that we're over.
I don't see any questions. Thank you for reiterating the program goal question.
Okay. Okay, in that case, let's finish up. There's Debbie's contact information. So again, if you have any questions, please call her. And look for an email from our organization. I'm not sure if it will come from ASA or if it will come from me personally. But do look at that, and it will talk about the further integration of RSC with the Lilly grant applications. And then it will also talk about these additional services that we'll be providing to help you further explore model programs and to further prepare your grant application. So, okay, Debbie, any other questions before we close?
No, I think we're good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a good month. Good luck, and call us if you have questions. And if you have any questions, too, or just want to bounce ideas off of us about that grant app, those grants apps, we'd be more than happy to talk with you. Okay, thanks, everyone.